Hi, in this tutorial, we will learn on applications of differentiation in economics and business. In this lesson, we will focus on the cost function, and we would like to learn how to compute the average cost and marginal cost. What is the cost function? A cost function, labeled as Cx, is the cost function, which is the total cost to produce X units of products. So this X in the bracket refers to how many number of units that we are producing. If X is the number of units of a product produced in some time interval, then the total cost Cx is given as this formula: fixed cost plus with the variable cost. Fixed cost is the cost incurred when no units of product is produced. That is when the units is 0, when X is 0. For example, if a factory is producing handphones, then what will be the fixed cost of that factory? Well, the fixed cost might be, for example, the rent of the factory, of the place. What about the example of variable costs? For example, it's the labor or it's the salary of the workers. Because to produce more handphones, maybe you need more workers. But no matter how many number of handphones that the factory is producing, the factory still have to pay the same amount of rent. Now, what is average cost? The formula of average cost is just Cx, where C is the total cost, divided with the number of units. Average cost is always labeled as C bar. This bar refers to the average of the function cost. So in short, average cost is written as C bar X. Average is purata. For example, if the factory producing handphones produce 1,000 units of handphones, then this 1,000 would be the number of units produced, X, and then Cx would be the total cost. So the total cost of producing 1,000 handphones divided with 1,000 units, that will be the average cost of producing 1 unit of handphone. Next, marginal cost. The formula is given as C prime X equal to dC over dx. So this is just differentiating total cost function. And marginal cost is always written as C prime X, which refers to the derivative of the total cost function. What is marginal cost? For example, if the handphone factory has produced 1,000 units, what would be the extra cost incurred by that factory if it wants to produce 1,001 units? What would be the extra cost? To find the extra cost, if you want to produce one more unit after we have produced 1,000 units, then we should just find C prime X, which refers to marginal cost, and then just substituting the value of 1,000 into that X. Another formula that you should know is marginal average cost. Whenever you see the word marginal, what you have to remember is the prime, or the first derivative of the function cost. After this tutorial, you will learn in tutorial 4 or 5, you will learn about marginal revenue and marginal profit. So whenever you see the word marginal, it refers to the prime or the first derivative. And if it's marginal revenue, that means it's the revenue function that we have to differentiate. If it is the marginal profit, then it's the profit function that we have to differentiate. So that's the concept. Remember, the word marginal refers to the first derivative. What about marginal average cost? You see the word marginal, of course, we need to have that prime or the first differentiation. And what is the function that we have to differentiate? It's the cost function. So first we write Cx that we have to differentiate. So write that prime on top of that C, and then we see the word average. Average here refers to that bar. So this is C bar prime. And to find this C bar prime is just differentiating that function C bar. And C bar refers to the average cost function that we want to differentiate. So just differentiate this average cost function to find the marginal average cost. Okay, just a recap. The most important thing that you have to remember is when you see the word average, it means the bar. And the function that we should look at is the cost. So it's the cost function that we have to write a bar on top. And if it's a bar, that means we have to divide with X, or the number of units that we're producing. And since the function here is the cost function, so we have to divide that cost function with that number of units. Next, marginal cost. Whenever you see the word marginal, that refers to the first derivative, that prime. What is the function that we want to differentiate? It's the cost function. So write C prime and then X. Remember that prime refers to the differentiation or the derivative of the function. Now we are looking at the cost function, so it's the cost function. Next, we have the word marginal and also average cost. So this means we have a prime there. Average cost is just C with that bar and X. So this refers to we have to differentiate that function C bar to find that marginal average cost. So that's the most important concepts that you have to remember throughout tutorial 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The same concept applies if the function is not cost, but if it is revenue or profit, and so on. Now, let's look at an example about this cost function. Given the cost function as follows, the total cost in ringgit to manufacture X units of a product. Now, let us go through one by one. Find the fixed cost. Whenever you see the word fixed cost, this refers to C0, which means it's whenever we produce no unit, but we still have to pay the cost. So to find the fixed cost, just replacing X0 into the function C. Next question is the average cost. Remember the tips that I've given you? Whenever you see the word average, this means that bar. And what is the function that we want to average it? It's the cost function. So it's C bar. What is the formula? There's a bar here, so that means we have a division, divide with the X unit that we are producing. And what is the function that we have to divide with? It's the cost function. So this is the cost function that we have to divide with X. What about C? This is C bar 2. In B, we have found what is C bar X. So to find C bar 2, just replacing that 2 into the average cost function that we have found in B. D is the marginal cost function. Remember, the word marginal refers to the first derivative. What is the function that we want to differentiate? It's the cost function. And what is the formula? When you see that prime refers to the first derivative of that function, cost. E, C prime 2. In D, we have found what is C prime X. So to find C prime 2, just replacing 2 into that X. Now let us solve it. For question A, we want to find the fixed cost. Just substitute 0 into the X. When you substitute 0 into the X, the only thing left is 20. Hence the fixed cost is 20 ringgit. In the question, it's given us that the total cost is in ringgit. So we have to write our final answer with RM in front of that 20. If not, then you are wrong. Next question. This is C bar X equal to CX over X, which means that we want to find the average cost. So to find the average cost, just substitute the cost function and divide it with X. Divide each of the term with X. And simplify. So 5x divided with x, you get 5. Negative 0.1x squared divided with x, you get negative 0.1x. The question wants you to interpret. So to interpret, you have to write something like this. At a production level of x units, the average cost of producing a unit is, this is the formula. Okay, so this means that no matter what number of units that we are producing, to find the average cost of producing 1 unit, we have to just substitute that value of x into this formula. So for example, if I want to find in C bar 2, which refers to finding the average cost of producing 2 units, I just have to substitute that value x equal to 2 into the cost function that I have just found in B. So solve it and you get 14.8. The question also wants you to interpret, so write something like this. At a production level of 2 units, the average cost of producing a unit is 14 ringgit and 80 cents. So if you want to find what is the average cost when you are producing 3 units, then just substitute 3 into this average cost function. So this formula, average cost formula, is in general for any number of units that the company is producing. Next question, D, wants you to find the marginal cost function. Marginal cost is just C prime. So this just means we have to differentiate that cost function. Write that cost function and then differentiate it. You will get 5 minus 0.2x. The question also wants you to find C prime 2. So C prime 2 refers to substituting x equal to 2 into the C prime function that we have found in D, and you get 4.6. So to interpret this, we have to mention that at a production level of 2 units, the production cost is increasing at a rate of 4.6 units of product. Let me correct here. It's increasing at a rate of 4 ringgit and 60 cents per unit of product. In other words, the cost of producing the third unit of product is 4 ringgit and 60 cents. So if we are currently making 2 units, then the cost of producing the third unit would be increased by 4 ringgit and 60 cents. And that's what marginal cost means. Please try to solve example 2 and also example 3. Remember to use the formulas that we have discussed before. Thank you for watching.